MrArchive.
There are stories buried deep in the dust of time, forgotten towns, vanished people, and strange events that never made it into the history books. Some say they're myths. Others know better, because every legend begins with a truth someone tried to erase. I'm MrArchive, your guide through the shadows of forgotten history, where we open the old books and uncover the stories the world chose to forget. If you enjoy exploring mysteries of the past, support this channel by subscribing and sharing these tales, so together we can bring lost history back to life. Book 1, The Vanishing City. In the spring of 1883, deep in the Kentucky Valley, there stood a small but thriving town named Eerie. It wasn't grand nor rich, just a peaceful settlement surrounded by rolling hills and a river that shimmered beneath the morning sun. People sold bread on street corners, horses clopped along dirt roads, children chased each other between wooden houses, their laughter echoing across the hills. But one morning, that laughter stopped. The town of Eerie simply disappeared. Not a fire, not a war, not an exodus. One day, there were streets, homes, and people. The next, only open fields and the faint outline of foundations buried beneath the grass. It was as if the earth had quietly swallowed the town whole. A traveler named Samuel Hargreaves, passing through the valley days later, wrote that he saw the ghost of a village shimmering in the morning fog. He claimed that for a brief moment he heard bells ringing, then silence, whispering. Like a breath being taken away, his journal said. Over the next few months, riders swore they saw lantern lights where Eerie once stood, floating in midair. Others heard faint music carried by the wind, a violin playing far away, growing louder before vanishing completely. Newspapers called it the Vanishing City. Scientists blamed the soil, a sinkhole perhaps, or an earthquake. But there were no cracks, no debris, not even the remains of furniture or tools. Slowly, the land was smooth, untouched, almost reset. Years later, surveyors found a cobblestone path buried beneath the valley, only a few feet long, ending in nothing. The stones were worn smooth, but one of them had strange symbols carved into its edge, a pattern, repeating softly, like a clock. In 1892, railway maps still listed Eerie as a stop, even though the line never reached it. When the company tried to remove it from their records, the name kept reappearing, printed again and again, as if the ink refused to forget. One winter, a farmer digging near the site found a rusted gate half buried in the earth. It had no fence, just 2 posts standing alone. The hinges were still warm to the touch. When he returned the next morning with neighbors, the gate was gone. Decades passed. The legend faded. But in 1937, a pilot flying over the valley reported seeing faint lights below, a perfect grid of streets glowing dimly beneath the clouds. When he circled back, nothing. Low, tense tone, a professor from the University of Louisville claimed Eerie was the site of a temporal fold, a loop in time where one day plays again and again. He was dismissed for insanity. Yet every spring, on the same date the town vanished, the valley fills with mist. Travelers still say they hear faint music, the sound of laughter, echoing from nowhere. Welcome back to Eerie. So, that was Book 1, The Vanishing City, a story that still has no clear ending, and maybe that's the strangest part of all. If Eerie truly existed, how could an entire town simply vanish? leaving no ruins, no wreckage, no trace of life at all? Was it swallowed by nature, or did it slip through time itself? What's certain is that something once stood in that valley, something that didn't want to be forgotten. Maybe the lights travelers still see aren't ghosts. Maybe they're echoes, flickers of a moment the world accidentally left behind. Tell me what you think happened to Erevele in the comments below. I read every theory, and sometimes your answers tell more truth than the old reports ever could. So that was book 1, but I have a feeling you're not done yet. Let's open the next one, shall we? Because this time, the story gets even stranger. Let's begin. Book 2. Every lost file tells a story, but some stories aren't just forgotten. They were erased, hidden from records, buried by time, or destroyed to protect the truth. And what if one of those secrets was mechanical? In the winter of 1911, a farmer in Nebraska discovered something in his barn, something that shouldn't have existed for another 50 years, a machine that moved by itself. This is Book 2, The Forgotten Machine. In the winter of 1911, in the quiet farmlands of Nebraska, a man named Thomas Wilkes stumbled upon something unusual inside his barn. It was hidden beneath a pile of hay and covered in rust, like it had been buried for decades. At first, he thought it was a piece of old farming equipment, but when he brushed the dust away, he realized it was something far more complex. Gears, wires, and a small brass dial with markings that didn't match any clock he had ever seen. In the center, there was a small plate engraved with a single word, Erevele. Thomas tried to turn the dial. The machine trembled, then started to hum. The air around him grew cold. The horses outside screamed, and then silence. When Thomas woke the next morning, the machine was gone. Only a perfect circle of ash remained on the barn floor. His wife swore he had been missing for 2 days, though to him only one night had passed. In the weeks that followed, Thomas began to change. He spoke slower, like his thoughts were trapped behind his eyes. He wrote in a language no one recognized, filling notebooks with strange diagrams and looping shapes that resembled circuits, decades before circuits were ever invented. A local newspaper published one of his sketches, calling it The Farmer's Curse. Months later, the paper's office burned down, and every copy of that edition vanished. When reporters asked Thomas about the machine, he simply said, "It wasn't built here." Years later, when his grandson opened the same barn, he found something buried under the floorboards. A small metallic cube, still warm to the touch, engraved with the same symbol found on the lost maps of Erevele, and when he pressed it, the cube began to tick. Scholars would later dismiss the entire story as rural folklore, saying no machine could exist with that level of complexity before the 1950s. But those who studied the surviving sketches noticed something impossible. The design matched the control core of early computers, 40 years before they were ever conceived. So who built the forgotten machine? And why did it bear the name of a town that no longer exists? Maybe the truth isn't about what Thomas found in his barn, but about what found him. So that was Book 2, The Forgotten Machine. Another file, another mystery, with more questions than answers. If the machine really did carry the name Erevele, does that mean the town never disappeared? Or has it been reaching out all along through the hands of time, searching for someone to finish its work? Maybe Thomas didn't discover technology ahead of his time. Maybe he only activated what was left behind by someone or something. Tell me what you think the machine was built for. I want to hear your theories in the comments, because sometimes the smallest clue from you becomes the next lost file I open. If you've come this far, thank you for listening to these hidden pages of history. I'm MrArchive, and this is the Lost Files of History. Your support, your likes, your shares, and your subscription keeps this archive alive and helps uncover stories the world tried to erase. But our journey doesn't end here, because the next files, they're darker. Book 3 takes us into a town that woke up to find the stars gone from the sky. And Book 4 tells of a ship that arrived to port, crewless, but still sailing itself. Those stories are waiting, and I'll be here when you're ready to open the next book.